I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, January the 31st, and thank goodness for global warming. No telling how cold it could be up in the Midwest and Northern Plains if we didn't have all this warming of the environment caused by all of our emissions and things like that. But 30 or 40 or 50 degrees below zero, that's about cold enough. So I don't think we would want to do without that. But guys really suffering to get their cattle fed. A lot of sales being canceled due to the cold. A lot of schools being canceled, but that's pretty much on everybody's mind. Should help the fat cattle market out a little bit. I guarantee you these cattle are not gaining anything in that frigid cold weather. It's all they can do just to create enough energy to keep themselves warm. But let's look at the board on Wednesday, February live cattle futures down 32 cents to end the day at 126.15. April's up a quarter at 128.05. January feeder cattle down 27 cents, 142.37, and March up a nickel at 144.30. Your fat cattle trade has not started yet at all. Really haven't seen anything to speak of on a negotiated basis in your 5-area feeding region. A few sales in Iowa at 125. And maybe with this big cold snap, that's the way we're going to get 125. It should lend a little bit of support and maybe enough to get that 125. And you know what? If guys didn't sell them for less than 125, the market would be 125. That's kind of what needs to happen. Fed Cattle Exchange had a pretty good run again. Didn't have anything that actually sold. Had a few loads PO'd in some Oklahoma Panhandle feedlots from 120.25 to 122.5. So thank goodness they're not going to take that. But I think there's a good chance to at least put those cattle for sale at 125, and maybe we'll get that big elusive level that we can't seem to get a hold of. It was too cold in Worthing, South Dakota for the Sioux Falls regional fat cattle auction there. At Stockman's Livestock in Yankton, South Dakota on Tuesday, they had a fat cattle sale, nearly 1,500 head, and good sales there. Ranging from 122 all the way up to 127 on fat steers and heifers, and heavy on the 124, 5, and 6. So, you know, the market's there if guys will just hold out for it. Box beef cutout values holding kind of steady middle of the week. Choice cuts 218.05 Wednesday afternoon, that's down 8 cents. Select 213 even, up 43 cents, so holding pretty steady there. Your slaughter staying pretty good despite the frigid cold weather. Through Wednesday, 349,000. That was just 3,000 less than last week and 4,000 less than the same week a year ago. Down here at New Orleans for the NCBA convention and trade show, looks like there's a good turnout. Was at the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame banquet on Tuesday night. Great turnout there, over 400 people there. Bill Foxley was inducted into the Hall of Fame and pretty much had everybody on the edge of their seat and gave a lengthy but very interesting speech, and it was awful fun to listen to if you like that kind of thing. But it's even chilly down here. You see guys wearing too much coat for this time of year down this far south, but it's pretty chilly down this way too. But look at some sales that happened on Thursday. Biggest sale in the nation, OKC West in El Reno, Oklahoma. Over 9,800 head there. The market report was not out mid-afternoon, but I did talk to John Cooper there. That's the young auctioneer, not Dale Cooper, who you can talk to for a long time, but you can't tell him too much. But talked to John Cooper, and he told me had a good set of feeder steers on hand on Wednesday. He said probably the best they've had in a while, and it pushed the market higher there. He said the feeder heifers probably steady to $1 higher, but the feeder steers steady to higher, maybe as much as $5 higher. But he said did have a lot of nice steers on hand. On Tuesday at the calf sale, they had about 3,000 head there of the 9,800 plus that altogether, but around 3,000 calves. The steer calves were 1 to 3 higher on Tuesday. Heifer calves $6 to $9 higher. So good market in El Reno this week, and the best demand on the calves were for those lightest cattle. And it's hard to believe when it's below zero all over the country and frigid, that your best demand's on your lightest cattle. But guys are starting to put those grass cattle together already. And also note that there's going to be a lot of graze out wheat. It's been so wet, especially in Oklahoma, all over Oklahoma, so wet. And they've had to pull most of the cattle off of those pastures because they're going to tromp out all the wheat. So too boggy out there for them, but what that's going to mean is a lot of grazing later on in your season and maybe into May. But look at an individual quote out of El Reno there, and these are some John told me about that he said were really nice. A light load, 45 head of 887-pound steers there at OKC West, bring 141.50. That's scaring the heck out of 900 pounds at 141.50. That's a pretty good market. Dodge City, Kansas, winter livestock, 2,850 head of cattle there on Wednesday. Steers mostly $1 to as much as $7 higher. Your heifers are steady to $4 higher, except for your big heifers weighing over 800 pounds, and they're always kind of hard to sell. But an individual quote out of winter livestock in Dodge City, 73 head, 746-pound steers bring 154.60. Another impressive. And I'm telling you, this week, because of that frigid, bitter cold up there, guys are kind of pulling out of the market in the northern plains. And down in the southern plains, they're outselling them on these big cattle. But it's hard to outsell Bassett, Nebraska. Individual quote there, 70 head of 608-pound steers bring 175.50. That's your feeder flash for Thursday.